From the shores of Malibu, where the waves are pumping, to the Great Wall of China and back to the streets of Las Vegas, where the UFC is happening. We are live. This is It's Time Radio, the show where we talk about what you think about, but maybe you're afraid to voice. Don't worry, we'll voice it for you. This is No Holds Barred Radio. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, politics, UFC. We talk about it. You live it. We do it. Here we are, and I'm here with my co-host, TJ Santis. TJ, another week gone by. How are you, my friend?
Having some stumbles, some technical issues to start our week. And, you know, unlike the champion, Francis Ngannou, I can't just roll through them and look like, I'm still an ever-evolving badass. Like, if I had a torn meniscus, I'm laying on the couch for 6 months. Francis Ngannou, he wins another title defense.
Well, speaking about Francis Ngannou, we have a very special guest on the show today. Champ is here, as they say. The champ is here, presenting the undisputed UFC heavyweight champion of the world, Francis the Predator Ngannou. Francis, I jumped for you when I was in the octagon. I don't jump for people. I got so hyped up that night. I'm sitting at my desk, but I want to jump right now, even saying what I just said. I am so proud of you, my friend. I am so proud of you.
Thank you, Bruce.
You're not just a heavyweight champion now, you're the defending heavyweight champion against a man that people thought was really going to possibly take you out, and you came out on top in the very tough. I find him very classy, very cool, gone. I give him all the credit in the world for getting where he got. The fact that two French heavyweight warriors were in the octagon at one time.
Oh, man.
Completely historic.
The French media, Bruce, was everywhere in Anaheim. I heard French conversations all over the Honda Center. I'm not even kidding you.
I even saw people eating crepes in the hotel.
That's awesome.
Francis, I asked this to everybody. You just came off the biggest night of your life. Seriously, how do you feel? Are you still up? Are you still like, how does it hold for you? I mean, how are you feeling right now? Top of the world, I hope.
I feel good, but always in top of my war. You know, my war belongs to me, and that's the only one that I can control, and that I can always be in the top. So I try to always be in top of that one.
Love your attitude. It's so humble. It's so cool. So cool. You know, we all heard the stories of your knee, okay, which all came out. I heard rumblings about this when I got to the show, okay, and it was like a football game. You don't tell people what players are hurt, right? Then it came out probably during and after your fight. Francis, how close were you to canceling this fight? Because if I understand correctly, your meniscus was torn, right?
No,
What exactly was wrong with your knee?
My MCL was torn, grade 3. My ACL was damaged, which I needed surgery for that. A reconstruction surgery, and my MPFR was torn as well. Wow. So he was very bad. And then when you see the report, it's kind of like scary. But I don't know. I just feel like I need to wait to call off the fight, you know. And with the time goes by, basically after speaking with Kamaru Usman, you know, I know how much he deal with injury in the 5 week. Then I spoke with him, and then he was to remind me his injury, the groin injury, and I know how painful that is, you know. Then I felt like, man, we are just made to do this no matter what, you know. Like, I will keep it to the end, you know. I literally like argue with everybody, such as doctor, my team, to go to this fight. Nobody was really wanted me to do. They were like, we have nothing to gain in this fight. We have everything to lose. I'm like, yeah, but you know, in my mind, I was pretty good in my mind, and I do believe that this sport is more mentally than physically. Obviously, a physical part is very important. You need to be healthy, but if your mind is healthy, you can surprise yourself, and that's exactly what happened Saturday night. Right. Because obviously I get there, you tell yourself all that thing, do the best that you can, but when you get there, you can't stop thinking about it. I'm like, oh, my knee might buckle, the canvas is slippery, or this, or he might kick my knee and that, you know, stop thinking about it. And then he was taking control of the situation, you know. But I didn't um get out to the game plan, keep like putting him on his heels, even though he was like striking, putting him on his heel, because I know that the only way that he's gonna get tired and then stop kicking and stop bouncing around.
Right.
And at that time, I think that was the third round. At the third round, I get exactly, he play out exactly how we planned it. Like if you listen, you will listen to like Usman telling me like, just don't chase him, put in pressure. And they were like, don't chase him, but put in pressure, you know, control.
Right.
Like, you know, so that exactly what how he was, and I believe in it. And by the time we get in the third round, I wasn't thinking about my knee anymore. I kind of like been motivated already. I know that I was losing the fight. And I still think about like all the support and everything that I had for that fight. I'm like, man, no, it can't just play out like this. I haven't said my last word yet. Let's go get this. And that's how I approached the third round. And going up to the fourth round, I look at him, he was broken.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you that.
I'm like, he's done, you know. But you know, and I didn't have honestly, I was I was tired, not too much, but I didn't have that energy to go there like want to knock him out. I didn't want to do that, to rush and then get exhausted, you know.
Yeah.
I just want to control. By that time, I know that if I miss something such as a submission or a knock TKO and then I miss it, it's taking a lot out of me. I'm like, okay, just control this, you know. So
Well,
that's how you play out.
Hey, real quick, we're talking a lot about, letters like MCL and ACL. I want to add a couple other letters to Francis Ngannou, because despite the knee injuries, I think after Saturday night, we might be calling him Francis NCAA Ngannou, because he was looking like a wrestler, Francis. Like, not too many people wait to have a busted up knee to start taking people down like you're, a friggin' D1 wrestler.
Well, let me comment on that too, Francis. You know, people they're aware of your striking power. You're considered the most powerful, hardest hitting puncher in the game. And what people need to understand is, in the past, you've had 4 wins by submission. You've won by arm triangle. You've won by Kimura. You won by arm bar and another undisclosed submission. Yet you've had 12 wins by knockout, right? And so when people were watching this fight, including myself, when you picked up Gon and you threw him, knowing about your knee, as TJ just said, and everything, my question to you is, first, a brilliant move and a brilliant tactic to change the move of the fight. Was the decision to take him down made by you and your coaches in the corner between rounds, or was this a predetermined move that you were to do during this fight before you stepped in the octagon Saturday night?
You know, we went. The strategy was like, whatever the opportunity came, I would take it. My team knew my wrestling. They know my grappling. They know that I'm capable of. I was very confident of, and now I'm like, if he gave me that, I would take it. And I was even very happy that in the first round he was the one initiating the takedown. You know, initiating the wrestling, and I
Right.
was very happy about that. You know, but again, like, you know, fighting is like instant. When you get in the octagon, obviously you have a game plan, but when things come to you, you don't have to think about it that much. You just have a fraction of a second to react, and you do whatever it takes. That's why you have to, your mental has to be very strong to believe enough in your skill to take that action, because he might just be there in the fraction of second, and after that he's gone, you know. So when I took that, and I was more comfortable in the ground, because even though in some position my knee was hurting, but I knew that it couldn't get worse. It couldn't be worse than
Right.
if I was standing. So I was just good there. Like, okay, just exhaust him, you know.
Wear him down.
Yeah, wear him down.
That's what he did. And you know, the way that Francis breaks it down, Bruce, round by round, like that's the cerebralness that I think, you know, true champions are made of. Do you remember, you know, I mean, I remember Rich Franklin fighting, I think it was Evan Tanner, and he's going into the 5th round and he thinks it's like the 2nd round. You know what I mean? When you're in a war, you can get lost in that and really not know where you are. And Francis to have the mindset, even, you know, in hindsight being 2020, but still have the mindset to be like, okay, this is the 4th round. I'm going to do this. This is the 5th round. I'm trying not to do this. Like that's what champions are made of.
It very much reminds me, Francis, of the great Randy Couture, who I think is one of the greatest all-round mixed martial artists and champions of all time. And he literally, to me, was one of the most cerebral fighters. When you used to watch Randy go into fights where he went past the 2nd and 3rd round, you could tell, and he was losing, and you could tell mentally how he brought everything together to win in the 4th and the 5th or the 3rd, 4th. It reminded me very much of him. You reminded me that Saturday night with that cerebral attitude that you just explained, bringing into this fight. You know, now that you've come off the, I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
That's might be exactly what it is. I have the opportunity to train with him a few times, so that might be where I get it from. You know, I train at Extreme Couture, by the way.
I forgot about that. That's right. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, but I didn't think Randy was actually still in the gym, let alone, you know, mixing it up with someone like Francis Ngannou. But I can't imagine the mental side of the game. Like Randy's got to, you know,
No, sometimes he came occasionally, and for some special time, you know, maybe just for a to help. Sometime he's not there all the time, but he show up sometime. And
he's great. He's great to train with. When we were at UFC Japan many years ago, John McCarthy went to his gym, and I did a takedown exercise and training with Randy. He's a beast. God, he's such a beast. Of course, I'm not like you guys, but he was a beast.
And he's one of the greatest of all time, too. I mean, he truly is. And Francis, I guess that's my question for you. Like, what is your goal right now in combat sports? Do you want to, you know, be considered the greatest heavyweight mixed martial artist of all time?
Mixed martial artist, I want to be a better version of myself, of a man. You know, I want to be happy.
Nice one, Francis. You got the answer.
I want to do things in the right way, in the way that 10, 20 years from now, I will look back and be proud of it. You know, regardless how is the outcome, what is the result, but that I can look back and be happy. I want to do stuff that I can look at my kids someday. Like, I fight for this, you know, the purpose, the reason of why, you know.
That's saying something. I mean, that is that's a big answer. And I guess I'm sort of curious, Francis, do you believe that sort of mindset and philosophy to not only your career, but, you know, your development as a whole, does that really stem from where you started? I mean, your story is that of a Hollywood film. I'm sure the rights are going to be up for auction at some point. We're going to see the story play out on the silver screen. But, you know, the idea of being a better man and, you know, showing your kids, you know, this is what I fought for. Does that, you know, go back to where, you know, everything started for you?
Yeah, absolutely. The thing that has always been very important for me, day one, is my reputation. Like, I remember the first thing that I ever know in my life, and I was 6 years old, was when my parents divorced. And then I went to my aunt's, and then from there, I started to hear people talking about my dad, how violent he is. Man, I was so ashamed of it. Like, I couldn't sit down. When walking in the room and they was talking about my dad, I would just turn around, like sneak around, because I was so ashamed of that. And since then, I swear to do anything not to have the same reputation like him. You know, so
your dad was considered a street fighter, if I'm correct. Is that correct, or what was the deal?
Yeah, he was a little violent guy.
Okay, gotcha. Well, so I think you really pride yourself, Francis, from your humble upbringing. Your story is so fantastic. We've touched on this before. One of these days, I know a movie is going to be made. Your life is a movie. There's no question. Now, hi, Eric. How are you?
It's getting crowded in here now, Buffer.
Yeah, now we're getting crowded. Now the tough guys, the tougher guys, and the toughest guys are in here. I got it. But
Oh,
Francis,
look at this whole crew.
it's a party, Eric. It's a party.
That's my kind of party.
Francis, you're getting back to
Welcome
that.
to the party.
Welcome to the party, pal. So, Francis, the beauty of it is, and one thing I've always respected too about fighters is humbleness. You know, to be great is to be humble. And Randy Couture was, again, getting back to Randy, is one of the greatest examples of that ever seen in greatness. It's not just what you do in the octagon, it's what you do out of the octagon. The way you handle yourself with people, your class act, the way you walk around and deal with everything is the true markings and makings of what I consider to be a true world champion and role model to the sport, which we need dearly. And thank you for that. But your life
Thank you,
is a
Bruce.
story. Is there any talk about a movie of your life? Has this come up at all? You don't have to say I have a movie being developed about my life right now, and I'm not supposed to talk about it. That's all
Hopefully
I'm
it's not
saying.
the kind of movie you were talking about last week, Buff. Jeez.
No, that's what
we won't go into that.
No, that's what I was about to say. Like every single of us, our life is all a movie. When you listen to if you take time to listen to everybody, life, that sounds like a movie. You know, you just have to give time. So yeah, there could be a movie about my life, but I think that movie will be unfinished, you know, because I still have a long way to go.
Story's not over
there will
yet.
be like, yes, this might just be a part one of three part or something, you know. So
just remember, Francis, because I'm a manager and I do all that kind of work. Markel, how are you, my friend? I'm not trying to take over your business, trust me. But there is a thing in life called sequels, Francis. So if you can grab a couple of paychecks, you do one, and then you finish your life because your life is 10, 20 years ongoing.
It's a franchise, right?
Sequel. It's a franchise, Francis. Francis, the franchise. Okay.
That's not bad. That's not
hey,
bad.
Listen, guys, while we all have you in the group, pardon me, TJ.
Yep.
You know, we've got Eric, we've got Markel, Francis' manager. Eric is great trainer and coach, and Francis. I'm going to go back to the knee, guys. Did you really circle the wagons and at a point think about throwing this fight and canceling this fight 2 weeks ago, knowing that there's potentially a 1.5 to 2 years of knee reconstruction? I've blown both my ACLs, so I'm very sensitive to the subject. Was this a sit down, guys? We got to make a serious decision here, not just about the paycheck, but about Francis's future and health. Did it come down to that? How close did it come down to not happening?
I'll go first really quick, just because, you know, we all kind of play our roles. And from my side of things, I have to take emotions out and look at the business side.
Right.
And, you know, we all come to our brother Francis and we have a conversation, but I directly had a conversation. I said, look, from a business perspective, it's a big risk. You know what I mean? Because as you know, it's like, what do you stand to gain? I tore my ACL playing college football before as well. So I know the pain and the suffering that he was going through training. And it was like, hey, we can push this fight back if you really need to until you feel 100%, right? Like 1 or 2 months, whatever you need. But at the end of the day, we ride for our brother. We're all a family, and that's what it ultimately came out to. But we all had to say our truths to Francis, because that's what he deserves to get, is the truth from his team and our honest opinion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And say, hey, these are just our thoughts. But at the end of the day, you drive the ship. We're with you, whatever you want to do.
So Francis, in essence, could have said yes or no, and he said yes, and it went forward.
Can I just say, guys, like Francis was a plus 170 underdog going into the fight around fight time. I couldn't imagine what the line would have been if the general betting public had known that his knee was hurt. And, you know,
they knew, TJ. They knew, because I said to Markel, because we're Vegas boys, and I said to Markel, like 2 weeks, I go, hey, when we start seeing these lines move, when the lines start moving, we'll know that the word is out, that his knee's messed up. Enough eyes, enough people are around, and it's not like malicious. It just happens to be that way. Like if he's at the PI getting his knee wrapped, or he's at the sports and has a knee brace on, if one person sees it, he's gonna tell 3 to 5 people. And in Vegas, bro, we know, we're born and raised here, so they're looking for any edge that they can to move that line. And I told Markel, I go, hey, that line's moving. The word is out. We know for sure.
Hey, well, I think some people that, put money on Francis Ngannou are pretty damn happy that line started moving because they made some extra money.
Hell yeah, they were.
A lot of people happy. So what you're saying is, guys, you all took a puncher's chance. That's what I like to hear. Yeah.
That's a good.
Markel, send me an address so I can send you guys a few bottles. Francis, did you ever get the bottle I gave Tin to give you? Did you ever get the bottle of punchers?
Yeah. I get that bottle. Thank you, by the way.
Yeah, you're very
Never had
welcome.
the
This is
chance to say
my
that.
bourbon, but this is what it's all about. This is about a championship bourbon. We've won 6 gold medals for the finest tasting bourbon in America, fastest selling, all that blah, blah, blah is great. But Markel, Eric, I'd love to get you guys a couple bottles. You can sit back with the boys after a long day of training and take a puncher's chance on me, okay?
Hey,
I'm gonna need that shit.
Well deserved, though, after Saturday night. I mean, everybody deserves a round in this call.
Exactly.
And then, like, to be honest with you guys, like, Francis took on this workload. He's the one that really, I think, just his mental fortitude to get through this entire camp with the situations at hand, not only physical but business. I think it's a testament to his willpower and his mindset. And that's kind of where I feel like going into the 5th round, those last 5 minutes to us were nothing. Like I knew that he was going to be able to pull this out for everything he's been through, because that's been his story, So, it's all credit to Francis, man. He dug deep and got this shit done.
You guys had to be a little nervous when Gon's trying to, wrap up a heel hook and you maybe switch to a knee bar. No, nothing.
No, because like that was when we initiated camp. That was the first thing Francis said to me was like, they're going to go for my feet, Bubba, because I have big feet. And they always talked about my legs and my feet when I was over there. So he goes, I guarantee you they're going to try to go for my ankles. So I was like, all right, well, what do you want to do defense-wise? And he goes, I'm just going to do this and sit on it. I'm like, great, perfect. And he goes, yeah, I hope they go for my legs because I'm just going to sit on it and then I'll punch them because they'll have 2 hands on one. So once he went for the leg, I was like, thank you, bro. Like that was pretty bad situational awareness, if you ask me.
Didn't you also protect it too by not switching stances, keeping that the leg back?
Yeah. We had to obviously stay in more orthodox stance, and it also took away our right inside low kick every time he switched to southpaw. We wanted to smash that inside low, so we had to change the target zone. We just try to go to his body, but we wanted to flatten his tires initially. But until he hurt that leg, we really couldn't throw that kick anymore.
So let's talk about the big question a lot of people have. The next opponent. We all know that if John Jones is weighing about 250 right now, concentrating on building muscle and doing whatever he's doing to get there, and he's getting there. I really believe, and tell me if you believe this too, but I think the combination of Francis and John Jones fighting for the heavyweight championship could literally be probably one of the biggest fights ever in the UFC, if not the biggest ever. So is this the goal, guys? I know you're going through whatever politics, and I'm not going to get caught up in the pay deals you're all going through. I know you have to deal with that. And my attitude and all that, if for the record is, I've said it publicly, I want every fighter walking in the octagon to make as much, if not $1 million, every time they put their blood, sweat, and tears on the line. People at Francis' level to make the 10, the 20 million, the everything. I'm not the one that calls those shots. I know the UFC pays more than anybody, with the exception of a few little things. I love the UFC. I'm not saying anything bad about them. I hope you guys work everything out. I just want to see them make as much money as possible. Okay. So let's talk about John Jones. The pay-per-view numbers for that, your share on the pay-per-view would be huge. Is there rumblings? Is this, you think, going to happen? Is there any talk at all? Or can you even make a comment?
No, I was going to let Francis go, but I'll say, okay. Look, it's no secret that fight will arguably be the best fight in UFC history, right? But the truth of the matter is that we've, been promised that fight since before Stipe, right? And, now it's coming up again after Gon. And the reality is we don't make that decision, right? UFC does, or John Jones, if he's around. So we don't know. We don't try to speculate, right? We try to take it one fight at a time, one deal at a time. But, hey, would we say no to John Jones? Absolutely not. We want that fight. But it's a function of when and how, I think, from our side. But
if it's not John Jones, who would it be? Stipe?
No, we agree of John Jones. And once again, if if things is right, obviously as a champion, you have to defend the title against anyone who stand to be a perfect challenger. You know, who put himself there.
Right.
Fight. You get Stipe or some up to be a number one contender. You know, when I first fought Stipe, Gunn wasn't even on the landscape yet. He wasn't in the conversation, but
right.
yet he was my first title defense. So there's a lot of people. There will always be a fight. You know, the only problem is how and when that's what happened.
Well, also the how and when, and as much. I've known John for years. He's a friend. We all know he's had his battles with himself and his battles with life and everything. But it's one of those things that when you take a fight with John Jones, as great as the contract's written, as great as everything's laid out, there's always that question: is it going to go smooth all the way up to the fight? Is the fight going to happen? Is John not going to? I love you, John, but is John not going to make a mistake?
Right? Are you looking for a new opponent 24 hours out?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So who knows? Until all I know is that I jumped for both you guys Saturday night. I've blown both my ACLs. The hell with it. When my adrenaline's taken over, man, I'm in there to do a shot and get you guys going more than you're already ready to go when you walk through that octagon gate. But if you're fighting John Jones, I'm getting air. I'm telling you, man, I'm going to go crazy.
You might be walking on air, Buffer. You might not even touch the octagon floor.
I might even do a judo roll and jump up in front of Ngannou's face. We'll see.
Don't. I mean, you're no spring chicken, Buffer, okay?
Great fights deserve the best announcing I can give. That's all I can say. But the show's not about me. It's about you, Francis. I'm just there to serve you and to serve the fans. That's it, period.
I might be asking a biased crew right now, but I'd like to get, a temperature of the room. Francis Ngannou, to me, opens as a favorite over John Jones. I really believe that.
How can you not open as a favorite? There's no way you can't. We all know John's going to reach into his toolbox and pull every tool out he can.
But what does he look like at heavyweight, though? We don't know. And Francis Ngannou, the best heavyweight in the world right now. So John Jones, I think, comes in as an underdog in that fight.
I got a question for you, Eric. Okay, John Jones weighing 205, going up to 250, slowly gaining weight, doing the bodybuilding type workouts that he's doing. And I've been an athlete my whole life. I train in many different ways, fighting the whole bit. And it's like when I look at the bodybuilding workouts he's doing, gaining that girth, won't that affect his natural ability to wrestle and to be doing at 250 what he can do at 205? I mean, is that a benefit or a negative?
With you, Bruce, 100%. And here's the thing: that's why I want to get him first out and not allow him to have a fight other than Francis at the heavyweight division, because he's going to have to figure that out on the fly when he's in the cage, locked in the same cage with Francis. So I'm with you 100%. I played football and I understand what the mass that he's putting on. That muscle is going to command a certain type of oxygen.
Yeah.
And if he feels like that's the way to answer this question and to get into the heavyweight division, I think he's wrong, because he's not carrying that weight naturally. Francis carries this weight naturally, and we've learned how to dispose our cardio differently than most. Whereas if you're just coming in, I don't know how he's adding this muscle. You and I probably have a pretty good idea, but at the end of the day, he's going to have to figure out how to manage that muscle and how to manage that energy, all while this dude's trying to knock his head off in the cage. So I want him first out the gate, so he doesn't have any time to figure that stuff out.
Well, the thing too about John is his speed has sort of abandoned him a little bit in his last couple of light heavyweight fights. So he's not going to have that speed, I think, in general, like he had at 205 at heavyweight. So, man, I don't know. I want to see it, though. I'll pay all the money in the world to see it.
He can lift all the weights that he wants, but I'll tell you what is not going to change is those little skinny ass legs of his, because we'll smash those things. We're going to chop those legs in half.
we should have John on the show. This would have been good.
Hey, I think the first thing we have to know if John Jones is going to fight or not, because actually he find himself a better battle in Twitter than in the octagon.
But Francis, here, guys, we're still dealing with Francis's knee and the existing injuries that are happening. So with that, you have a rehab period here. So when do you want Francis to fight again? And what if they say, well, we want him to fight John in July? I mean, is it like, does this work for you? Or do you have a 4 or 6 month period here that you've got to take care of your stallion? So what is the deal?
No, July is not possible because I'm having a surgery in March.
That's my question. And the surgery you're going to have is to repair the MCL, the meniscus, and whatever you got to do to the ACL, right?
Yeah.
So isn't that about 4 to 6 months from my knee experience, about 4 to 6 months of rehab before you can start hitting bags and doing all this stuff again?
Not before you can start hitting back. Before you can get in the training camp, maybe 3
months,
4 months before you start hitting back, but really start to wrestle, and 8 months before you can fight.
So
but also too, Bruce, like think about that timeline. That's just for people to get back. That's not necessarily for people to get back to prepare for John Jones. You know what I mean? That adds even more to the time, I think.
Well, now that we're talking that kind of a timeline, we're talking potentially a fight in the fourth quarter of this year, which means that John potentially, Eric is probably going to have that heavyweight fight before he can fight Francis. You know?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and again, like, is he going to sit around and wait for us, or is he going to try to get this figured out and potentially go fight Stipe and lose? And then that whole luster of Francis and John Jones immediately goes away.
I think he's gonna wait, guys. I really do.
Well, wait 1 second here. Let's talk do re mi. Okay, Markel, you understand what I'm talking about. Okay, our minds are about making our clients money. Okay,
yeah.
And when I think of John Jones, I think that John Jones has literally lost $20 to $30 million minimum not fighting this period of time. If I'm John Jones and I'm ready to go out there, I don't want to wait another year and lose another 5, 10, 15 million. I got to start bringing money in. I don't care how much money I got in the bank. That's what I do. Right. So there's a monetary question here that's going to go along with all these other quotients of the decision to be made by John. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. But I think, looking back in hindsight, supposedly John was demanding, Deontay Wilder money, right? 20, 30 million, but to your point, he's been losing out of money just due to inactivity. But I also don't think he's gonna just step into the octagon and fight some heavyweight without there being a title on the line. I don't even think that's smart on his part. You know what I mean? I don't foresee there being an interim, right, for John. But obviously we've seen crazier things happen, right, in the past. But at the end of the day, all roads go through Francis. So he's going to have to make that decision on his own, but we're worried about us and ours.
No, you worry about you and your homeboys, but the bottom line is you just brought up something I didn't even think about. If Francis can't fight till the end of the year, it's the old interim story all over again to create the attention to the heavyweight division. It only makes total sense that I'll tell you right now, I predict there's going to be an interim heavyweight fight.
Bruce, in the past has shown that in the heavyweight division, they can wait for a year for a title defense, and we have been waiting for years. We have been having one title defense in the heavyweight division for a long time.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's the issue.
Well, let's hope not. Let's hope.
Well, I mean, that's the thing too right now. Even if there is an interim champion that's brought up, I think fans know the deal. You might put a belt on the line and it helps buys, and everyone loves champions. But the champion of the heavyweight division, even if he's disputed by an interim title, I mean, the man is Francis Ngannou.
Francis, in my mind, I mean, personally, as a fan first and announcer second, interim titles are great, and I'm happy for that individual. But there's only one true champion, and that's you.
Yeah.
And until you defend it, you're the champion. That's why they call him interim, right? Champion, interim.
See, it's hard though, because the idea is that Francis is the undisputed champion. But when you introduce an interim champion, then you can't say undisputed. And it's almost a bit of a knock against, Francis, because he didn't do anything wrong. It's a situation of circumstance, but it's like, what do you call the actual champion when he is disputed? I don't know. I guess you call him Francis Ngannou.
Don't worry about it. Leave that up to me. You're the
there you go. Right.
Okay,
they'll write it down on what you're supposed to say. Right.
I mean, my job is directed by my boss. Okay. But yeah, that's my job.
They can do whatever they want, but they know, and the world knows who's the real champion. That, they can make a belt out of paper for all we care.
All right. I love this attitude. All right. So here's another question, guys. The world of boxing, right? We all know the money that's thrown out there and everything. And of course, it's all heard of. Francis, do you ever, I know Mike Tyson's my buddy. He's your buddy. He's your idol, as I've read. He was there to watch you fight Saturday night. It was awesome. Guys, are we ever going to see Francis at any time in the future, do you think, in the boxing ring?
100%.
I know your UFC contract, I assume, does not allow for that, but is that a goal for you?
100%.
100%.
That's what happened. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, you've got Deontay Wilder, you have Fury out there talking, and I mean, would you right now knee healthy, your boxing ability the way you are, because you were a boxer first and foremost before you got into MMA. That's where you started. Right now, if they made a fight, this is theoretical, guys. Dana, don't get mad at me for asking this question. Theoretically, Tyson Fury contract on the table, ready to go. Fight December 2022. In your abilities, could you prepare and would you be confident going into a fight with Tyson Fury this year?
Yeah.
Theoretical.
Yeah, I will.
Markel, Eric,
theoretical.
you guys, would you want to?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I gave a comment to someone when they were saying, "Oh, Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury." I'm like, look, Deontay Wilder's 219 pounds and knocked Tyson Fury down 3 times across their multiple fights. Francis is 257 solid muscle. You know what I mean? If you think Francis can't touch this guy and he goes to sleep, like, it's wrong. So we'll see.
Okay.
We'll have to see.
Okay. Multi-fighting sport athlete. I love it. Guys, we've had you on for 45 minutes beyond the call of duty here, and I really appreciate it. TJ, any other questions? Because I could go on for another hour with this.
I mean, yes, all the questions, but like you said, time's not on our side, and these guys have been more than generous.
Yeah, very cool. Is there anything
Thank you, Jeff.
anything I can do for you, Francis? Because I'll tell you right now, if you ever need a video from me, an audio from me to motivate your training, to get you going, this stands for you too, Markel, and you too, Eric. I'm there for you, boys. Okay. You're my brothers, and I'm there for you 100%. I'm always in your corner. Know that when you're fighting somebody, I'm also always in their corner because I'm an equal opportunity announcer. But we have a friendship going here, and I highly respect you, Francis. You're my idea of a champion. Your humbleness to me is great, and I admire it, and the way you handle yourself with class. And I just think that you're being the champion and being who you are is a great asset, not just to the UFC, but to our great sport of mixed martial arts. And your team, as I've gotten to know Markel and the chances I've had to talk to Eric and meet Eric, you're solid, guys. I like it. I really appreciate your coming on the show. And I just wish you big cheers, no fears, and friggin' warrior spirit forever. Okay.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you, Bruce.
I appreciate you, brother.
I'll see you next week, Bruce. I'll see you back in Vegas, brother.
All right, you got it. I'll be there next week. I'm announcing the Pro Bowl on Sunday, but I'm doing the show on Saturday. I don't know if you'll be
nice. Yeah, yell at Strickland. We got Strickland and Puna, so
cool. All right, I'll see you there, Eric. You got it.
All right, Bruce.
Okay.
Markel, don't forget to talk to the people at Millions.
Yes,
right?
yes. He texted me this morning. I'm on it.
Did you guys make your NFT deal with the UFC yet?
We did it in an activation with Dapper Labs.
With Dapper, I'm doing the promos for them.
Yeah. They're great. They're
And
awesome.
are you exclusive? Is that an exclusive deal?
Oh, no. I don't believe in exclusive NFTs at this point.
That's why we get along. You'll be hearing from me in the next 3 weeks.
I don't even know if I believe in NFTs yet. I can't even figure out what they are.
I've got a very big project we're going to discuss, Markel.
Perfect. Let's do it. Hit me up, Bruce, anytime.
All right, guys. Thank you.
All right.
Later, guys.
Thank you,
Take
TJ.
care, champ.
See
Bye,
ya.
Eric. Bye,
Thank you,
Markel.
Bruce. Bye.
Bye-bye.
What a team right there.
Wow, what a get for the show to have all three on the show. That was cool. They are a cool team, you know. You can see the synergy within them.
That's the thing. Like, there's that old saying, like when it comes to raising a child, it takes a village. It takes a village to propel athletes to the highest of heights, because like we talked about it just in that interview, there's the mental, there's the physical, there's the financial, and all three of those sort of, areas of an athlete will affect one another. If your financial isn't good, it's going to affect your mental. If your mental isn't good, it's going to affect your physical. And that's the thing, man. Like it's mixed martial arts and it's a individual sport, Bruce, but it is very much a team-based sport. And that team goes much further beyond than just who you're in the room with training.
No question. No question. I got to say it again. I just love his attitude, but I've gotten to know Markel, and I love Markel's attitude. He's a good guy, but I hate the fact we got to wait till the end of the year to see Francis fight.
I know.
I can't stand.
There are a bunch of other questions involved with that too, and we didn't get into them too much. But Francis sort of shut me down. I had a 2-part question, but he answered the first one so well about wanting to be the best man he can be that the follow up didn't really fit. In that follow up, well, first I asked again was if he wants to be considered the greatest mixed martial artist of all time. He kind of sidestepped that and said no, he wants to be the greatest man he can be. My follow-up would have been, how important is the UFC to accomplishing that goal of being the greatest of all time? And that's the thing that is interesting about Francis Ngannou. He talked about passing up a $7 million contract prior to this fight with Cyril Gane. He thinks a different way. He has different priorities. We don't know exactly what those priorities are. Maybe it's boxing, maybe it's, countless other things. But the bottom line is Francis Ngannou is different than every other fighter, I think, right now in his mindset. And that's going to be not a challenge per se, but something that the UFC and his team are going to have to get on board with and really sort of work together if we're going to get as quick of a turnaround as you and I both want.
Well, you both, your point's well taken and understood. And I think it comes back down again to the fact that this man, how I always say that I'll always be the first one at the bank on a Monday to cash the paycheck,
right,
but I'm not about the paycheck. I am about the paycheck, but I'm not about the paycheck.
The paycheck is why we go to work, but there's other issues, factor, right?
But there's other issues. And the issue to Francis to be able to look in the mirror daily and say, I love who I am and what I'm representing to the world. And it's that humble attitude again, and I could name other athletes that go against that humble attitude, that will carry him forward.
Right.
Okay. He's going to make the money. He's got a lot of money.
He's a franchise. I think you and I both said that. I mean, that's really true. He's not just a couple of payday type of athlete. No. It's not just a couple of big fights. And he's young too, Bruce. He hasn't been doing this for very long. So, I mean, we could be talking about Francis Ngannou at the tippy top of not just MMA, but combat sports for a decade.
Well, he's also international. I mean,
100%.
The whole Parisian, the whole French thing.
Yeah.
The fact that the world was watching. I mean, sponsors from France, Europe, all over. This is not, they won't go after, let's say, Randy Couture as an example. But Francis is going to have a much wider demographic of financial extra revenue streams coming his way and are coming his way like crazy.
Yeah, no, again, just going back to the idea of how many French media had made the trek, again, still in a pandemic. And again, to a state that is very strict about its mandates, and you have to show vaccine records and things like that. The fact that they came from far and wide to cover this event last Saturday night tells you everything you need to know about the drawing ability internationally of one Francis Ngannou.
It's going to be very interesting, as I always say, to watch the evolutionary process of his career as it begins to unfold more so.
I mean, we've talked to young athletes time and time again on this show. I encourage people to try to find that John Jones interview where, I don't want to call you a prophet or a psychic by any means, but you predicted a lot of the issues that John Jones has dealt with and unfortunately hasn't dealt with in the greatest of ways. And, the bottom line is when Francis Ngannou answered my question the way that he did, you just started clapping. And I mean, that says a lot because I don't think you've ever done that when we've asked that question and talked to fighters. And I mean, he's a special fighter in a variety of ways, Bruce. And I know one thing that you always want these great athletes to sort of aspire to be is a big role model. And Francis Ngannou is saying all the right things to check those boxes.
And it's real. It's not BS.
Right.
It's real.
Yeah. Real quick though, he talked about boxing and Markel, was making the hard sell that maybe he does have knockout power. I think it would be a tall task. I mean, he does have knockout power. I'm not disputing that, but does he have the ability?
Be a tall task, too.
Right. Does he have the ability to knock out, Deontay Wilder or a Tyson Fury? Yes, he does. Sure.
He does.
But at the same time, I know I'm probably the minority here. I don't care. I don't want to see high level mixed martial artists in their prime go box unnecessarily, because it's a payday. And again, I'm not going to try to get in the way of anybody getting their money. Go do it if you can. But to me, I want to see Francis lord over this division. He hasn't really, been a long-term defending champion yet. This is something that I want to see him before he goes boxing. I want to see him really plant his flag as a future UFC Hall of Famer, because right now, if his career ended, I don't think he is a UFC Hall of Famer. I think his story is amazing, but statistically speaking, he's got a lot yet to do. And that's the issue I have here with these, premier athletes in their prime starting to talk about leaving the sport, because I'm a mixed martial arts fan. I'm a mixed martial arts purist, and you go box and it causes complications and takes away from what I think everyone should be doing when they're the best in the world. And that's, applying their craft to what they're the best in the world at.
Well, 2 responses to your 2-point
diatribe. Sorry.
First off, I agree with you on the knockout thing, because remember, you train for mixed martial arts,
right,
or you train as a boxer.
Right.
And it's 2 totally different types of training.
And I'm not knocking Francis when I say that. I don't think you are either.
No. But I mean, Deontay Wilder at 219 pounds has been a lifelong boxer, fighting monsters like Tyson Fury and taking shots. That's not happening in the octagon amongst heavyweights, in the trading back and forth of shots the way boxers do, and the training that they do. So that remains to be seen. In theory, what he said about his power, yes, I understand. Sure. In theory. In reality, we won't know until the proof of reality creates more than just perception of reality. Okay?
I mean, my thing is, and we talked about this with Quentin Jackson and Shannon Briggs, like, if you're going to step over into their world and box,
they're fighting.
Make it a 1-on-1 though. You know what I mean? Like that's what I would like to see. If Francis goes and fights Tyson Fury, then I want Tyson Fury in the octagon. I think it's only fair.
You know what? We're going to probably have Vitor Belfort on the show before he fights in the Thriller event on the 26th of February, where Rampage and Shannon are doing their thing, if I'm not mistaken, or team captains. I forget which is going on. That's a question we can actually ask a mixed martial arts superstar like Vitor Belfort in his transition to boxing. The difference.
But there's a difference between Vitor and Francis. Vitor's no longer really pursuing mixed martial arts.
Agreed. Look, it remains to be seen. We'll see. But I just was excited to have these guys on the show, and I want to see Francis fight. I just want to see him.
We're going to, Bruce. I mean, that's the thing. Like, when I look at some of the people that have gone, head to head with the UFC and Dana White in the past, not too many people ever just go their own way and never come back.
It'd be stupid to go your own way. The UFC is the NFL.
Right. 100%. And, that's the thing. There's a lot of talk about fighter pay, and you and I, we don't need to go far deep into the woods on that. But like you said, outside of some special circumstances where, you're going to probably not be fighting MMA, all the money to be made for someone like Francis Ngannou is in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. And ultimately, no pun intended, that's where it's going to end up being. I mean, Francis, I don't think, is done wanting to fight mixed martial arts and prove that he's the best in the world. And take the money out of the equation for a moment. There's nowhere that Francis would fight outside of the UFC that would further his cause at being the best heavyweight in mixed martial arts. It just wouldn't. Yes, he can go box, but if he wants to establish himself as one of the greatest of all time in MMA, it's going to have to be in that 8-sided cage.
No offense to other organizations, but you become irrelevant when you leave the UFC after a while.
Well, I mean, it's just very there's no one really outside of the UFC right now, fighting in the traditional unified rules weight classes where you can make the argument that you're the best in the world. The only way you're going to be able to do that is if you're in the UFC, you walk away as the greatest in the world, and you continue to dominate in another organization.
Instead of losing in the UFC, your contracts being ended in the UFC, and you fall from the octagon down into the Bellator.
Right, but for example, so Gegard Mousasi left the UFC when he was making a very strong argument that he was the greatest middleweight in the world, and then he lost in Bellator. Gegard has not lost since then, but he has not been able to establish himself to where he was prior to going to Bellator. And even if he does, you're going to have a UFC fighter leave the organization on a win streak that's ranked top 5 And then you need to beat him in Bellator before you can say, look, I'm still one of the greatest of all time. See what I did to this guy? You know, it's not feasible, I think, in the modern space.
No argument. So let's just hope that everybody gets together and
they will, Bruce. I mean, think about it. Tito Ortiz, BJ Penn, Sean Shirk left the UFC in a pretty bad situation. They all have eventually come back and made it work. And, you know, that's the thing. At the end of the day, the UFC has a lot to benefit with working with Francis Ngannou, as does Francis Ngannou. And they'll dot their I's and cross their T's eventually.
The future is golden for both. Let's see how it all develops. Going into a couple other things to regards to the hell of a night on Saturday night. The crowd at the sold out Honda Center was just off the hook, star studded, the whole bit. But I want to
Hey, by the way, beautiful gold jacket. I love that jacket.
Thanks. Thank you. King and Bay. My King and Bay. Check him out on Instagram. My exclusive tailors. That jacket was just awesome.
Yeah, I haven't seen like that color. I hate to say it. I called it mustard yellow at first because I couldn't really figure out what it was. But you're right. It was gold. In hindsight, like, and that's the thing too. You think of a gold jacket. It doesn't sound good in my head, but when you see it, my God, it looked good.
How do you think sometimes when we plan these things out and I get the jackets delivered, I'm like, do I want to wear that one?
Yeah. You know? Yeah. But I mean, you're able to pull it off. Like I joke with someone, the other day that you have a coat or a jacket that looks like carpet padding. You know what I mean? It's all sorts of different colors, but it works.
Hey, that carpet padding is so hard to find. That card soap that we only can find enough to make one jacket.
Right.
When we found enough to make a second one, we auctioned off about 3 times, and they sold for about $8,000 to $10,000.
Well, and that's the thing, Bruce. It's 101. It's a piece of art. You're wearing art.
It's a piece of art, and it's a collector's item. And let me point out, and thank you for that, and thank you, my King and Bay. I just want to say the Moreno fight in Figueiredo.
Oh man,
to see two guys enjoying pounding that, punching a hole through each other's chest, as Ray would say, and smiling away. Just an amazing 5 rounds. Real quick, who did you have winning the fight before I made the announcement?
So honestly, Bruce, I got lost in it. It was just such a good fight. I got lost in it. I was not scoring it back and forth. I would have leaned towards Moreno. I think I need to go back and watch it and give it a good
watch it again because I was leaning
look
towards Moreno.
The bottom line is this, it's the third fight that they've had, and it's very rare that a trilogy can end even. And it is that. It was first fight was a draw. Second fight was a steamrolling by Brandon Moreno. Third fight, was very close. Davison gets it. So I don't know if we're headed towards a best of 5 or if we're headed towards a best of 7. At this point, though, with what we've seen them do to one another, why would you dispute it? Why would you argue it? Because they're great. The only question I have, though, is how long does Figueiredo really want to fight at 125 pounds? I think that his weight cut is an issue. We saw that in the Benavidez fight. The first time they met for the championship, it was, turned into a non-title fight for Figueiredo because he failed to make weight. I don't know if he's going to be able to continue at this weight, but if he does, I got to believe, even if they don't fight each other back to back forever, they're going to end up running into one another because Brandon Moreno is truly one of the best flyweights in the world, as is Davison Figueiredo. It doesn't matter who is the champion. They're always going to be, 1 to 2 to 3. And they're always a couple fights away from fighting one another, it seems.
No, I agree. And you know what? We all want to see him fight again. And I believe they will fight again. I also want to give some credit to Michel Pereira. The entry to the end, giving Michael Chiesa a little bit of competition as far as my introduction to him, getting in my face.
Oh, they're raising the stakes now, Buff.
I'll tell you the fight. This is not me, TJ. This is the fighters that are doing this. Okay?
I know. And that's the thing too. Like, you feed off their energy. You've always said that. So when they're giving it to you, you're giving it right back. It's hard not to, right?
It's so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing too. I hate to say this, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to anybody else out there, but the bottom line is, no one has ever done that prior to you. And there are, no offense, Bruce, I'm not going to try to be mean to you when I say this, but there are probably 100 plus UFCs where you're not that guy. You're just not that guy. You're finding your legs. And that's the thing too. It wasn't like it happened overnight. I can't point to the UFC where Bruce Buffer's jumping up and down and getting in the face and doing all that, because it didn't happen overnight.
The evolutionary process.
Right. The 180 degree spin didn't happen. Well, that sort of did happen overnight, but it was a complete accident. But that's my point. It's all organic. And, I work these regional events, Bruce, and there are, let me actually give a shout out to one announcer, Lupe Contreras, a phenomenal, very refined and classy announcer. He's got his
better. He's gotten better. I
So
watched him on
good.
the last show. He's a lot better than he was 10 years ago, and he was good back then. But I noticed that the increase in quality of Lupe also. Yeah.
But the bottom line is this. He's not doing what you're doing. And if he was, I'd be saying, well, why are you trying to be Bruce Buffer? Like, if you're a ring announcer and you're trying to do MMA announcing and you're screaming or jumping up and down, like, that's not you, man. You're emulating someone. I mean, maybe you can still find that passion and energy, but you can't deliver it the same way, because even if you do it well, you're still being Bruce Buffer. Like that, like, again, not trying to be an asshole, but that guy that does your gimmick, you know, where he literally is impersonating you on the street. He did it to Masvidal.
For Masvidal's promotion.
Right. But the bottom line, he doesn't, by the way. Well, maybe, I don't know. I just did Masvidal's show. I called it on Fight Pass. He wasn't the announcer. But let him go. But he's got another promotion too, so he might be on that one still. But the bottom line is this: I don't want to hire someone that's doing a Bruce Buffer impersonation. No. If that's the case, I'd just try to hire Bruce Buffer, even though I can't because of, you know, contracts. But what I will say is, if you're doing something, it's kind of like a cover band, right? Sure, you can make money doing it. You can go sing the songs of AC/DC, but no one's really cheering for you, man. They're cheering for AC/DC.
I appreciate that. It's very cool. And thank you. And I got another compliment from Mark Wahlberg, who was ringside or Octagon side Saturday night. And he told me, he goes, I need to send you a video of me imitating you. You know, he goes,
see, that's flattery. Like, yeah, and that's the thing too. Anybody that's out there that's doing what you're doing, trying to pass it off as their own, like, you just got to smile because they're trying to be you. And that's, you know, what do they say? Imitation is the highest compliment.
Highest
form of praise. Yeah. Yeah. So 100%. So, you know, you're a trailblazer, but again, it wasn't done overnight.
No, not at all. On to a few other things here. Don Fry hit a fan at UFC 270.
Saw that. I don't know what happened. I mean, I could definitely tell that the individual in question was kind of getting in his face.
Yeah.
And I don't care if Don Fry is in his fighting prime or if he's 125 years old. He's not going to take your nonsense. You know what I mean? And if you give him some nonsense, you might get popped in the mouth.
Yeah. I didn't watch the video. Do you see in this video him popping the guy?
Yeah, it was on TMZ. Again, we don't know the whole circumstance. Don didn't hit him that hard. Yeah, unfortunately, these things tend to result in lawsuits and litigation and things like that.
Are you kidding? Are you kidding? Of course.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see what happens there, but I don't know. I'm not condoning violence. I'm not condoning anyone hitting one another, but we also live in a time where I feel like some people deserve a pop in the mouth from time to time.
I have no argument on that, but I don't do it anymore because I never hit anybody that didn't try to hit me first. Personally.
Right. Of course. But anyway, I mean, you know,
he gave him a little pop with his right hand, but that pop could cost him 25, 50 grand.
And it's unfortunate because that's the thing too. If you're going to throw it and you're going to have to pay for it, you might as well give it your all, because Don Fry did not give it his all.
So it looks like Rogan, there's now Neil Young, right? The famous Neil Young wants to have his music scrubbed from Spotify because he's tired of Joe, in what his opinion is, spreading fake information about vaccines. So it's either Joe Rogan goes or you take my music off Spotify.
I mean, I would be surprised if Neil Young actually has the ability to do that. There's contracts and streaming rights and all that stuff, but I get his point. I mean, here's the thing. I'm not standing up for Joe Rogan's thoughts. I don't even know what Joe Rogan's thoughts really are, to be honest with you. But with that in mind, Spotify's just a distributor. You know, I understand that they employ Joe, but like, they're not co-signing on everything that Joe says. There are other podcasts on Spotify. We're on Spotify. You know, they're not condoning what we say.
All PR is good PR. Just say my name correctly, and that's what Spotify's doing here. Listen, Odell Beckham. I mean, good luck to the Rams and the Chiefs. The games this weekend were just the Chiefs game was probably the greatest football game I think I've ever seen. 5 touchdowns,
13 seconds. 13 seconds.
Touchdowns in 2 minutes in the last 2 minutes. I know. And they were 13 seconds. Unbelievable.
Yeah, no. And you know, I know a lot of people that were pulling for Buffalo. They seem to be sort of that Cinderella comeback team. Mahomes has been on top for a while. So Kansas City, you know, not repeating necessarily a Super Bowl yet, but getting very close. And I don't know. There were a lot of really upset people, I think, on Sunday. With that Bills game, because again, 13 seconds, Bruce, like, I love that drama. I love the fact that anything can happen, but man, ripping a lot of people's hearts out in Buffalo.
It's a lot of people on Sunday. A lot of people went up and down emotion wise, agenda wise, the whole bit. You know, good luck to the Rams. Good luck to the Chiefs. The Bengals look strong.
Hey, I love Cincinnati being in the playoffs. This team, that's great.
Incredible. It's incredible. My brother Michael will be on the field for the Rams on the playoff game on Sunday.
Oh, he's ramming it.
He's ramming it. And Odell Beckham, when he signed the deal with the Rams, I know this came out, but did you hear about this? He got $750,000, which he announced he would take it in Bitcoin. At the time, Bitcoin was worth 64,000.
Right.
Today, it's worth 35 and change.
Yeah.
So today, the deal's worth 412,000.
Right.
But he's going to be taxed on $750,000.
Right. Well, that's what he got because he turned it into Bitcoin. So you gotta,
Right.
yeah. No,
so that means as of now, if he had sold the Bitcoin at the current rate, he would have only netted $35,000 this year on his contract.
Yeah.
Odell, you don't take Bitcoin. You take money and you buy Bitcoin.
That's what he did. You can't take Bitcoin.
He took it in Bitcoin.
No. So then he can't get taxed on that. So what happened is he got the money. And then bought Bitcoin. Yeah, he turned it into Bitcoin.
Okay, then he turned it. Okay, well,
right, but still, same thing. Bottom line is same thing. You're going to end up getting taxed on that initial money because that's what it was.
You take the 50.3% tax, you cut it out, and you go, that's the money I got to play with.
Right.
Not the tax money.
Right. But I mean, at the same time, by the time he needs to pay his taxes on the 15th of April, maybe Bitcoin's $100,000. Who knows?
Hey, do you think Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens will be elected in the Baseball Hall of Fame? Because if they don't make it this year, they don't get in.
That can't be true because who just got into the Hall of Fame? It was a Minnesota Twins. No, Jim Cott just got into the Hall of Fame. Like he pitched in the 70s.
Maybe this is the way it's being worded, but they said this is the last year writers can select Barry Bonds or Roger Clemens.
Oh, okay. Maybe Cott got in on a gimmick of like he hasn't been on the ballot for so many years. But the bottom line is this: for me, Barry Bonds especially was a Hall of Famer before there were gross, overt signs of performance-enhancing drug use.
No, I agree.
So to me, I'd like to see him in the Hall of Fame. I even saw Jeff Nowitzki write an article about Barry Bonds and how he should be in the Hall of Fame, and that was really touching and pressing because Jeff Nowitzki's a big reason why Barry Bonds. Yeah. Exactly. So when the man that was investigating that says, "Look, do the right thing, get this man in the Hall of Fame," get him in the Hall of Fame. One thing too that I think that is hurting Barry is the simple fact that he was just a dick to writers. He wasn't the nicest guy. So anybody that was covering him, they're probably hesitant to put his name down just because the guy was an a-hole more often than not.
To avoid that dick type attitude, as you so call it, this is why I always say, treat everybody with respect.
Right. Yeah, I firmly believe that Barry Bonds will get in the Hall of Fame. Yes, it might be the last year that he's on the ballot or whatever for writers to select, but he'll get there eventually. Pete Rose will get there eventually too. I really believe that.
Yeah, I know. Pete and I were talking about it. He said it doesn't matter to him anymore, but I know it does matter.
I mean, it matters because he's earned it. But if you know anything about baseball, you know that Pete Rose is a Hall of Famer. He's one of a kind, special, once in a generation type talent. So,
not even a question.
Right. Now, so in his heart of heart, when he says it doesn't matter, I think he's basically saying like, I know I've done enough. And
exactly.
We all know.
Exactly. Before we sign off, Antonio Brown, would he have made a difference on Sunday with the Bucs game? Who knows? But now he says that the quarterback he wants to play for is Lamar Jackson over at Baltimore.
I would not sign Antonio Brown if he would play for free.
I agree with you. And that's all I'm going to say. All right, TJ, let's sign off. What's up?
See here.
By the way, we'll be back next week with the CEO of Millions.co, my company. And we're going to.
Oh, it's not Bruce Buffer? I thought you were the CEO of Millions. I'm kidding.
I'm the co-founder. He's doing all the work.
You're the CEO of everything, Bruce. What's going on? Extra rounds. That's probably a thing on UFC Fight Pass. Go watch that. And myself and Pearl Gonzalez, who is also loving your coat. Pearl's like a fashionista, so she's always paying attention. And I was making a big deal out of you jumping a little bit. And everyone's like, why are you freaking out because Bruce is jumping? He doesn't jump anymore. It's a big deal. When Buffer gets air, when it's air buff, things are happening.
I was going to get air on the It's Time, and I'm just so used to doing it the way I do it now, but you never know. I don't know what I'm going to do till I do it. Anyway, go ahead.
I know. But hardcores like me, we're paying attention, Bruce. We notice things like that. So
my mom, I got a phone call.
Does she call you and be like, are you all right?
She's always worried going to hurt my knee again. I go, Mom, I'm fine. It's okay.
You gotta love moms being moms, right? no matter how old you are. But check out Extra Rounds. You can check out the archive of everything we did from the Honda Center on Saturday. Wherever you listen to podcasts, just do a search for UFC Fight Pass and Extra Rounds. You can watch the show on facebook.com/UFC Fight Pass. And our entire archive is available on the Fight Pass service over at UFCFightPass.com.
Very cool. And all kidding about my knees, I'm strong as hell, guys. Don't worry about my knees. But when you don't have an ACL in one leg, all it takes is that one wrong little glitch.
I mean, Bruce, I have a child who will leave Legos or a car, on the floor, and I'm always one object away from blowing out my knee, and that's a special kind of pain. Like it's the worst pain I've ever felt. I don't know if you've had any other injuries that have hurt worse, but I've blown out my knee. My MCL's all shredded. I've needed surgery for like a decade. It's the worst pain I've ever had.
It's pretty bad. I can name some other bad injuries, but it's pretty bad.
I had a root canal one time that needed to be done, and that hurt really bad too, but not as bad as the knee.
When the painkiller wore off. And when painkillers weren't in yet.
Yeah.
All right. So here we're going to be back next week with the CEO of Millions. The show today is brought to you by, of course, Puncher's Chance. Fast-selling, highest-rating bourbon in America, just voted the number 5 best-sipping whiskey at its price range, sipping bourbon in America. It's Time Energy coming in March to the USA. And also FanDuel, the most successful, greatest sports book on the web. Check out FanDuel for all your betting needs. With that being said, fun show. Really loved having this crew on today. TJ, you have a great week. Take care. We'll be back next week. Everybody listen, as I always say, treat everybody with respect, be a role model to your sphere of influence, set your goals, write them down, learn about them. So when you step on that yellow brick road, you be the best you can be. Whether you're number 1, which would be great, or if you're just the best you can be, which would be great, you're winning. And that's what we're all about on It's Time Radio. Have a great week. Enjoy football this weekend. I'll see you from the Octagon the weekend after this weekend. But more importantly, I'll be back next week with my partner, TJ DeSantis, on It's Time Radio. Big cheers, no fears, Warrior Spirit forever. Buffer out. Take care. Enjoy. Bye-bye.